Welcome to the Mosh Pit, your home for unsigned punk, rock, and metal artists, where your music goes to be heard.
Yeah, I got a question for you now.
Uh-oh.
So, given everything we talked about, back to the music and stuff, as far as like what I'm doing, just in your personal opinion, as far as what I've been working on and the drive and the passion that I have and the things that I'm trying to accomplish, do you see me as someone being successful in this industry at some point?
I do. Honestly, I do.
For real?
I do. Like we talked last time when you were on with Haley and Jaron, dude, you've got a ton of potential. You are making all the right moves. You're doing everything that you need to be doing. You're keeping your name out there. You're keeping in touch with the music scene.
Yeah.
And you're honing your craft.
Yeah.
And that right there, I mean, you can't beat that. That's what you got to do in this.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to go a long way. I
Well,
really do.
I've always had this feeling that I'm early in my journey, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not at my final destination yet. I'm still early in the process, if that makes sense. But I feel like I'm on my way definitely to achieving huge things someday. And that's one thing that I struggle with right now, especially with like my family at home and stuff. You know, they're the kind of people that's like, if I made it, they would be ecstatic. They would be at my shows and probably like be super happy and nice to me and stuff, which, I mean, it's not like they treat me horrible or anything like that. It's just like they, kind of like we said earlier, they have that tone of like, they
You're never
don't
gonna
really
make it.
believe that I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there's a lot of musicians out there that face that problem. And since we're ending this episode shortly, I do want to leave with, if there's any listeners out there listening to this, I mean, I'm not well known or famous or anything yet, so I don't know if this will hold any weight with anybody, but if you're out there and you're listening, man, and you got goals or visions in your life, dude, like, do not care what your family thinks, what your boss thinks, what your sister, you know, just do what you want to do. Screw what anybody else thinks. Do what makes you happy, because you're going to die one day. Your life is going to end. You're going to cease to exist, and you do not want to live with regret.
Exactly. What is that old saying? You only die once. You live every day.
The Nest,
Exactly.
The Watcher.
Yep.
The watcher sits upon the mountain, stars and moon spin
Ravener, Feather.
I'm just a feather in the wind. No telling where I'm gonna land. Each time I know if I try, I'm gonna fall before I fly. And I feel it, I knew it. I've been here many times before. You heard me, and I see you were no friend of mine. And it all comes back around, like a bird goes to the ground, flying too close to the sky. And it all comes back around, and I feel the fear in your eyes. You show me where the bullet lies. Each time I open my mouth, I wish I never made a sound. And I feel it, and I knew it. I've been here many times before. You hurt me, and I see you're no friend of mine. And it all comes back around, like a bird goes to the ground, flying too close to the sky. And it all comes back I used to soar far beyond the midnight sky. Angry war, rage against the burning night. Very near, never see the light of day. All alone, where I know that I'm safe. And I feel it, and I knew it. I've been here many times before. You hurt me, and I see you were no friend of mine. And it all comes back around, like a bird goes to the ground, flying too close to the sun. And it all comes back
But yeah, I was just curious, man, because I like to get outside perspectives too, because that's kind of one way I feel like I keep myself in check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because I'll ask my friends all the time, like, well, do you think I'm doing the right thing? Like, do you think I'm setting myself up for success? Because I want to keep myself grounded in reality as an artist, if that makes sense. Like,
Right.
I don't want to be one of those delusional people who's like, oh, I'm gonna be the next Kanye. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
dude, I've listened to your stuff. You've sent me most of your stuff. I've listened to on was it SoundCloud,
Yeah.
and I've listened to it. It's so good. I mean, if you had a band and you had vocalists to sing over your guitar, be amazing. Because the guitar is killer. I mean, those instrumentals are killer.
I appreciate it, man.
And, back to the whole friends thing and, asking them what they think. try not to get too many of those. Try not to get too many yes men on your side, because they're going to tell you everything you want to hear.
Well, that's like when I'm working with studio guys, and if I ever get to the point of, having management someday, I want somebody who's going to be honest and tell me what I need to hear instead of what I want to hear.
Right.
Because, like, that's how some of the best albums and songs are written, when you've got those dudes in the studio who are like, no, that could have been better.
Yep.
Or, like, you can do better than this.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's the thing is, you can't surround yourself with yes men, because you'll get complacent. You'll go, hell, that's good enough.
Yeah.
It's never good enough.
Yep.
And if you're a perfectionist like me,
dude, that's why I haven't released a lot of the stuff I've been working on, because I'm like, this is not perfect yet. Like, it's not ready. Dude,
I'm supposed to do this unboxing for Toner mics, because they sent us one, and I'm using it right now, and it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's just freaking awesome. So I did this, and I recorded it with my little camera, and then I did the audio through the mixer. So the audio sounds great. Video looks like shit. So, again, we are being sponsored by microphones, not by cameras. It was so hard for me, because I'm such a perfectionist, and I'm so awkward on camera. Those things are not good together.
Yeah.
So I know I recorded it probably 15, 20 times. And the take that I'm going to use is the best of that. It's not the greatest, but it's the best of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And probably by the time this episode comes out, that'll already have aired on my YouTube channel that I didn't know I actually had. But I do. So, yeah. Anyway, but no, you're making the right moves, just like Haley and Jaron told you last time. You've got all these ideas, and you've pretty much done the footwork.
Yeah.
And that is the most important part. Your connections, your footwork, your equipment. I mean, that's where you build.
Yeah.
And you go from there.
Yeah.
Operation Neptune Spear, Memento Mori.
Feeling
elite. People struggle to live and eat. Stop peddling a unified utopia. Cause hell's where you're going to. So civilized we can't breathe. Life stolen from you and me. Poverty, hubris of the elite. People struggle to live and eat. Stop peddling a unified utopia. Cause hell's where you're going to. Society, people like sheep, thinking they're free. People like sheep, thinking they're victims of society.
And never will.
And that comes into the whole alien conversation because I strongly believe that if there are extraterrestrials that are watching our planet right now and they know what's going on, the reason that we have not been allowed to expand or go out into other territories, into other planets and stuff, is not just because of scientific difficulties. I think it's also because they see that we're still playing around with nukes and basically playing with fire, and they don't want us to join a galactic civilization.
I don't blame them.
Because, I mean, think about it. You imagine this. You're part of a highly advanced civilization, and you've got this younger species who hasn't been around as long as your species has, and you're on this, like, totally higher level of consciousness and existence and all this, and you're ridiculously intelligent, and you're watching this species, and they're still on this planet. I mean, the second they get something in their hands that can be used as a weapon, they weaponize it.
Yep.
And why would you want to allow a species like that to evolve to the point to where they can come out onto other planets and other star systems?
Else.
Yeah, dude. Like, nobody would want that. So, you know, that's my whole view on that thing. So
I mean, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. It
I'm sure people are probably going, why the hell is he talking about aliens, dude?
God, this was a good conversation until he started that.
But I mean, you know, who knows?
But yeah, I mean, and you know, even on the conspiracy side, you know, they've tried to say, that the reason we keep finding all this stuff on Mars that matches what we have
There's
here.
pyramids on Mars.
Yeah.
Literally, there's structures on other.
There's a conspiracy going around that we were on Mars before we made it to Earth. We destroyed that planet and
I've
then
heard
came
that before,
here.
yeah.
And we're just making our way through the galaxy.
I 100% think that could be possible because
I don't doubt
they
it.
have literally discovered so much radiation on Mars that it's ridiculous. And they said they don't know why it's there.
Right.
And, you know, I think that a lot of these scientific organizations are paid money to say things to cover stuff up. Like, oh, well, it's the radiation from the sun, or it's the radiation from solar winds, or just anything they can come up with to basically discredit the fact that there are other life forms out there.
I mean, that wouldn't even make sense. Why? That one's further out than us. Why would there be more radiation there than here from the sun?
I was there's a YouTube video, and I can send you the link later. It's a long video, but it's called "The Real History of Humans That We Weren't Taught." and it's an animated little video. It's really interesting. I don't know who made it, but they did a really good job, and it's talking about Atlantis and Lemuria and like before, what do they call it, Pangea? Before all that, there was a place called Lemuria on Earth, and there's actually 12 different levels, like 12 different planes of existence, and we are at the lowest plane right now, because when humans first came to, it basically stated that there was the children of the stars, which is us, that were put on Earth, and then there was the Martians, and they called the Martians the left brains, and then we were the right brains. We were the ones that used telepathy and spiritual connection and enlightenment, and we had these elders who ran the planet, and there's like all these spiritual energy sites that they used across the planet to create a grid of energy around the Earth. And it basically, I'm trying to make it, it's so much information, I'm trying to pack it into like just a few sentences. But it basically states that the tablets of Thoth, which are a real thing, you can look it up, they're green emerald tablets that were written on by an ancient leader. I think he was a Sumerian. He was one of the Sumerian rulers.
Okay.
But in it basically talks about the origins of humanity and how we came to Earth, and we were brought here by a higher, more advanced species. Basically, is what it says. And when the Martians came to Earth, apparently, and they call them Martians because they're from Mars, because originally they think that we were put on Mars too, and that they came to Earth, and there was a problem with the Martians being too left-brained because they were prone to violence and war, and then they ended up getting the right-brained humans to be like that, so it ended up kind of screwing up the balance of things, and all the spiritual energy sites got off of whatnot, because it basically says when we first got here, we could communicate telepathically. We were in tune with animals, like all the stuff you see in Hollywood movies. Like there was reality to it. Like we were on a higher plane of existence where it was just a pure existence, and it was more of souls than it was physical bodies, if that makes sense. But after the conflict with the Martians or whatever, I mean, it's really interesting, but after the conflict with the Martians, it dropped us down levels in the planes of existence, and we've ended up getting so far from what we were when we started out that we're on the bottom now.
Makes sense. I mean,
and like, I mean, it's really interesting. Like, it's a good video. It's got a lot of information. I'll send you the link later if you want to check it out.
Definitely check that out.
I'm not saying that I believe that all that is 100% true, but it's very interesting.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
That's really cool though. I mean, I don't really get into all that, but it is cool to look into and read about and learn. Because I mean, again, back to Socrates.
I mean, you got to think about it. We don't know the origins of our species.
We don't. And we've all got a different tale.
Nobody knows, and that's the crazy thing.
Did we come from monkeys?
Why would a species not know where it came from? Like, how did we lose that information? Like, what happened? You know what I'm saying?
Scavenger, Apollo's curse.
Thought than deed. Children of the making, it's so easy. Wasting time on foolish dreams. Got my feel of everything. Hoping for the hopeless, they hope for me. Can we shine? Now it's time. mountains of Valdez. Would you just try to cover me? Crashing down with all you see, calling out to something strange down inside of me. Give it light and painless, feeling unseen. Feel it twice, maybe once again, breaking down my pride. Intimidating eyes, they gaze into me. Can we shine through all the scene? Now it's out of everything. Will I find an memory? Broken keys to all my schemes. Will you get high enough to see on your mountains of fantasy? Would you just try to cover me? Crashing down with all you see. Mountains of Valdez. Would you just try to cover me? Crashing down with all you see.
This is why I can't live a normal life. I'm always thinking about stuff like this, and it's like, what the hell's going on here?
Well, no, I mean, it's interesting to think about. I mean, it's interesting to talk about. It's interesting for our podcast listeners.
Yeah.
So, this is for you guys.
I just hope I'm not talking y'all's heads off with this stuff.
No, trust me. At least we have an actual topic.
Yeah.
We may have jumped a little bit, but it was all gradual. If you've listened to anything me and James did, especially this past episode,
yeah,
dude, I mean, it was, I mean, we went from Star Wars to Stephen King to just, I mean, what we were doing, what the goals were for this year, to just everything. We were all over the place.
Yeah.
But it was our first episode back, so, you know, gotta give us a little leeway. Because we actually took a longer break than what we wanted to, because we were just going to take December off, do the Podbean featured artist, featured podcast, whatever it was, for the first week, take off the rest of the holidays,
yeah,
and then come back first, second week of January. That turned into like the third week, and then the fourth week, and then we finally came back, and here we are. We're recording again without James. Oh, well, he'll get over it.
But yeah, man, I don't know, like, the world we live in is just crazy. Like, being a human is such a weird experience.
It really is.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, dude, if there was a life before this, like some sort of existence before I came to this planet, like, I wish I could remember it.
I know.
Like, that'd be wild.
So do you believe in reincarnation?
I think that's what I lean to more than anything else currently. I actually had this conversation with my mom earlier today because, she's still very old school Southern Baptist Christian.
Yeah, big bang, boom, we're here.
Oh, yeah. And, I was telling my mom, like, I just don't believe that. Like, okay, if I was a god, and a god is a supremely intelligent, all-powerful being who can create universes, I think that a god would be intelligent enough to know that, if I create a lake of fire to burn people in forever, that's not going to solve any issues. That's not going to resolve any problems. That's just making people suffer, and that makes me just as bad as what they're doing to other people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why, to me, it's so easy to tell that the Christian concept of God is a man-made idea. It's a man-made reflection of what we think God is. But
Yeah.
I think, I believe, from what I've experienced, that there is definitely another reality, another dimension that we step into after we leave this one. And I definitely think that there is a force that lives within us and everything around us. And I think that through organized religion, people call it God, they call it Buddha, they call it whatever, Allah, whatever they choose to call it, but I think it's all the same thing. I just think the problem with religion is that it's twisted it into something that it's not, if that makes sense. Like, kind of like Avatar, the Earth was the planet that they lived on was the spiritual force giving life to everything. And I think it's something similar to that, like our universe. Because I even read an article that came out the other day about how our universe could potentially be a conscious living being in and of itself. And I think that that's highly possible. So
It's kind of neat, kind of scary.
yeah, well, I mean, I even watched it's a beautiful video. It's called Time Lapse of the Future, or of the Universe, I think. And it's the most terrifying but beautiful thing I've ever seen in a long time. And it talks about, like, what's going to happen from now until the day that the universe ceases to...
I did watch that one.
Like, when all the stars die out and everything. And it's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, even aliens are not going to be able to survive. Like, I mean, even...
No, that's the end. That's
Because
it.
the last remaining source after all the stars die out is going to be the energy of black holes. And even black holes are going to die out. And the universe is literally just going to be cold, dark, and empty. Like, the temperature is going to go to absolute zero. We can't even fathom how cold that is.
Easy.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy, dude. Like, we live in a wild existence. Like, I just...
And even, before the end, it's amazing to think that just there's so many little things that could just wipe us right off.
Yeah.
Just whoosh, gone.
Well, I mean, like, we could get hit by an asteroid tomorrow and boom, we're all dead.
Well, I mean, there's one on the collision course, isn't there? I mean, there
There's
always
several.
is.
Well, there's several, but I think that
There's one like the size of Rhode Island that's headed our way.
Yeah.
They say it's going to miss us by, what did they say? Something like, I mean, some stupid low number like 500,000 miles. I know that's a low number. Yeah, when you think in the galaxies,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
well,
like the
I mean, that's why I honestly think that there are extraterrestrials watching our planet, because
moving them out
as
of the
long
way
as we've been here and we've had no incidences like that,
since
like,
the dinosaurs.
I think that something's watching out for us. Like, somebody is out there doing something to keep us from getting annihilated.
No.
Because there's even been reports of nuclear launches over in Korea and stuff where I've literally seen a YouTube video of a real, what do they call it? Aircraft pilot, like a legitimate military member of their Air Force, talking about how he literally watched a UFO disable a nuclear warhead that they were testing. He watched it shoot around it and shoot it with beams. He said it shot like this. One laser here at the top of it, shot around within an instant, another laser here on the bottom of it, and it just disassembled and fell apart in the sky.
Damn.
And then the UFO just blasted back off into the atmosphere. So
Put the toys down, kids.
yeah, I mean,
Put your eye
literally,
out with that.
literally. And I think that if they just showed up and were like, hey, we're here, people would just lose their minds.
Oh yeah,
They would not be able to handle it.
We're not exactly the nicest species when it comes to people invading our spot.
I mean, our first reaction to things is to
Shoot
kill
it.
it with fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But-
I mean, why do you think anytime an alien species is ever reported, it's some drunk hillbilly at 1 a.m. and nobody else is around because they're going, ain't nobody believing this guy.
Yep.
You know, they're not going to show up to Donald Trump. I mean, they might. We wouldn't believe him anyway.
I think it's going to happen, though. I think one day it's going to happen. They're going to show up and be like, yo, what the hell are y'all doing?
Yeah.
And
We gave you
everybody's...
all this free reign, and
Yeah.
look what you did. I mean, I agree. Humans are a horrible species. I mean, we really should have been wiped off a long time ago, in my opinion.
What do they call that? Nihilism?
Yeah.
Or whatever? Like a nihilistic viewpoint on things? But, I mean, I kind of agree with that to a point. Like, I think that as a whole, yeah. We have bad tendencies within our species. But I also think that it's... Like, if we were genetically engineered by a superior species, then technically they're to blame, too. Because if we were genetically engineered, then whatever they mixed our DNA with, they mixed it with the DNA of something very violent by
Yeah.
nature. And
Yeah, I mean, look all the way back. Look, you know, the first murder, Adam and Eve. You know, Cain killed Abel, and I mean, what he used? Rock?
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Bashed his head in.
Yeah, and you guys want gun control? We can use anything to kill you.
Oh God, it's a very offensive video to people who do believe in Christianity and things. But there's a guy on YouTube called The Amazing Atheist, and he has a video called The Redneck Bible Recapped, and it's hilarious. If you ever get a chance, you should check that out too.
Definitely will.
It's
Definitely.
funny.
Oracle, cleansation.
Mosh Pit!
You're still here? It's over. Go home.